Thanks for tuning in to Proline TV. It's our PGA Championship preview. I'm your host, Greg DePalma, and we're going to try to have another big week after a really good one last week and became that close to having an awesome week as far as our DFS selections. We're going to get into that a little bit later on, but like I said, let's try to make sure that we actually have an awesome week as we take a look at the second major of the season, the PGA Championship. And let's get started right away. Actually, you know what? Let's show you what we did last week. Now, you might think, well, we only won $150 in our $25,000 DraftKings contest, and that's not a whole lot. But the funny thing is, and I actually, I didn't think we were that close, but we were. We were 15th, as you can see down here. So we were 15th in this contest in a $25,000 contest. And it only gave us $150. But the winner, as you can see, we also had Oberg, we also had Fowler, and we also had Nicolai Højgaard. So the difference was he picked the dude that actually went on and won, Raytan. He also had Woodland, who finished in 17th, and Burns, who finished in 37th. So if you could take a look at our team again. Now we had Minwoo, who finished 14th, Kitayama 19th, and McCarty 10th. So what was the difference? We didn't win. So that means if Ricky Fowler or Nicolai Højgaard had won, even though he had both of those players, we were in a better position. We had better players. We had better finishes around them. We would have actually won the contest. So, yeah, we came really close. And there's this one. I'll hold off until we're ready to go down that road. So, yes, that was cool. But still, it was really, really disappointing to lose like that. Okay, let's get into it. The PGA Championship, and this is again going to be in Pennsylvania. We looked at the weather in the Philadelphia area. I believe this is about 30 minutes away, approximately, from Philly. And the weather we saw, rain chances are only 35% between 7 a.m. and 11 a.m. on Thursday, and that's it. And it's going to be 65 on Thursday, no wind. That's it. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, no rain in the forecast. Friday should be about 70, and it's going to get even hotter over the weekend. And the winds at this point do not look like they're going to come into play either. So we're not going to have any wind. You might want to take a look. Again, it's only Monday. So you might want to take a look at the weather for Thursday on Wednesday before you make your final predictions, just in case there is rain between 7 and 11 on Thursday. Without any thunderstorms, if it's going to rain, if it's a light rain, whatever the case may be, there might be a little bit of an edge by going afternoon, morning. But again, you got to check that out on Wednesday. Okay. Next up. What are the similar courses? By the way, bent grass greens, and that we don't see that a lot. So that's definitely going to come into play this week. Okay, bent grass, excuse me. The PGA Tour, the PGA Championship at Aronimink, and here are the most similar courses we can come up with. Okay, the courses that only come around like once every 10 years. These are the really hardest ones to find similar courses. But these are the ones that we did come up with, and you can see here, the BMW Championship was held here in 2018. Now, you do have to keep in mind that these courses change dramatically as far as the setup to championship play, major play. But it's still, as far as the directions, left to right, right to left, that sort of thing. It's the same thing. That never changes. So there is there are some similarities. And so you do have to keep that in mind. And then these are the others. And the only other major, which would be considered, or which we considered the closest, would be Pinehurst U.S. Open 2024. That was won by Bryson DeChambeau. Okay. So keep that one in mind. Next up. Oh, let's go to the trends. We got 2 pages on this one. No surprise there. Okay. Americans, as you can see there, they've won 10 straight PGA Championships. And what's also interesting is that 4 of the last 7 winners have actually won this event before. Brooks Koepka has won it 3 times. Justin Thomas has won it twice. So you got Koepka. So really what you have is you've got Koepka and Justin Thomas have won 5 of the last 9 PGA Championships. Since 2003, we don't have this one up there. Only 2 players have won this event while making their first appearance. Colin Morikawa was the last to do it in 2020. And only 1 player since 1991 has made the PGA Championship his maiden PGA victory. That was Sean McKeel in 2003. And on the board here, 16 of the last 23 winners registered at least 1 win prior in the same year. So I think that's kind of important. First, second big major of the season, first big major outside of the normal. We're at the Masters at Augusta every year. So the first new course for the major this year. And you have a little bit of the feeling of victory in the same year. 18 of the last 23 winners were ranked in the top 25. That makes a lot of sense. These are the best players that come up, rise to the top. 13 of the last 23 in the top 5. So that's a little bit more than 50% of the last 23 winners have been ranked in the top 5. Okay, let's now move on to the next trends. These are really something else. Check this out. The thing that's really important here are the last lines of both paragraphs. 19 of the last 20 winners have played the week before. 19 of the last 20. So what does that mean for Scottie Scheffler? And who else didn't play last week? Well, Scheffler was the biggest name. Colin Morikawa did not play. Forget who else. There's a couple of, important players did not play, but we'll get into that. 22 of the last 23 winners have registered a top 30 in his previous event. How about that? 22 of the last 23. So not only are you coming in, in form from playing the week before, but you're in really good form because you registered a top 30. That's a big number. And this doesn't matter as much when you have a signature event. That's happened the last few years, of course, but the last 29 winners, if there was a cut, the last 29 winners made the cut. But we don't really have that now with the signature event. And LIV doesn't have a cut. And as far as playoffs, we only had one since 2011. That was in 2022 when Justin Thomas came back. I think that was his comeback win over Will Zalatoris in 2022. As far as where winners come from, after the first round, only 3 of the last 20 winners began round 2 with the lead. Okay? So having the lead, not that big a deal. And winners have come from, in that stretch, 33rd, 33rd, 34th, and 38th. And that's happened in the last 8 years. So the 4 of the last 8 years. And consider that Scottie Scheffler started 20th last year. So how about that? So 5 of the last 8 years, you have seen the winner of this event get off to just an okay start. He just, wasn't awful. Look, nobody can get off to an awful start and win a major. But you don't have to necessarily get off to like a top 15 start here. 6 of the last 9 started at least 3 shots back. Scheffler was 5 back last year. After the second round, 14 of the last 15 winners began or went into the weekend in the top 7. 7 of those 15 had the lead. All right, so that's, you see that happen sometimes. Just because you can get off to a slow start on Thursday does not mean you can get off to a slow start on Friday. Make sure if you get off to a little bit of a slow start on Thursday, and that's usually, again, you're within distance, you're within the top 40. That leaves you enough room where you can have a really good day on Friday and get back into this. Scheffler was in 5th place last year going into the weekend. And then finally, going into the final round, after the third round, during the stroke play era, 1958, we're going back, only one player began the final round outside the top 10. How about that? Not a come-from-behind event. And only 4 began the final round outside the top 5. You want to win here? Sort of like the Masters, in that final round, you better be in the final 2 to 3 pairings, normally. Payne Stewart, he was the one player that did it, by the way. He was 11th in 1989. Justin Thomas had his come-from-behind win in 2022, and that was tied for the largest final round deficit, 7 strokes back. And he tied it with John Mahaffey in 1978. And this is why we say you can throw all these trends at you, all this historical stuff, but trends, as we know, are made to be broken. It just depends on when it is. But that's why you can go with them. You're just going on average, and if you get beat, you bow and you move on. 10 of the last 18 winners began the final round with the lead, including the last 2 winners, Scottie Scheffler and Xander Schauffele. Okay. Let's move on. Oh, before we get into, because, we're going to be moving on now to, I might as well pop it up here while I'm talking about it. This is the main group. I really should have went over it when we went over the course, but really what Aronimink is you're talking about a golf course that is, it's precision over power, meaning that if you come in here and you're a bully, you've got the power, the modern power game, and you're just going to bully everyone to victory here. It's not going to happen. You're not going to do it. So this is a good thing, I think, because it brings every golfer into contention here. You do not have to have a power game to win here. Of course, power games are always going to have an edge no matter where you go, especially if you hit it straight. But it's just not a major advantage here. You've got rolling fairways. You've got all sorts of bunkers. I mean, they're all over the place. I mean, it's really, the design is quite something. You see it on TV, but you got bunkers all over the place. You've got elevation changes, sort of similar in a way where you can, it's like a couple of things that actually remind me a little bit of Augusta, where you got the elevation changes. You got undulating greens. So there are a few things that remind me of that. But one of the other things that you're going to be dealing with a lot are being like in an uneven position. Like maybe you're on a slope a little bit trying to hit the ball, and you're doing it with long irons. You're doing it with like 200 or more. And speaking of long irons, as far as the key stats, that is a big one. Okay, because there are going to be a lot of these players also that are not necessarily going to take driver on some of these holes. And then once you get off that tee, no matter what you take, that second shot, man, there are going to be tons of long irons that are going to come into play. So take a look at golfers that are doing really well at 200 or more, and also take a look at the golfers who may be struggling a little bit at 200 or more. Accuracy is definitely going to come into play. This is, again, this is a situation where, as I said, precision shots are going to matter over power. Then you have to have a really good short game. So you better be scrambling good, And with all those bunkers, you better know how to sand save. So scrambling, sand saves, long iron play, and also make sure you have an accurate shot. And strokes gained approach, that'll be like our most normal basic stat we're looking at. Strokes gained approach. Because the one thing that I notice is that, and this is why this is important, with those undulating greens, it's going to be very important. The players that are going to have an advantage are the ones that are going to wind up hitting the pockets of the greens. They're going to hit the pockets of the greens that will end up giving them a much better birdie chance. Because let's say if you hit it outside the pocket, then you got to go over, the green, the little hill on the green, and that's going to make things already difficult. But if you can get inside the pocket and you don't have to worry about the undulation, major advantage. Okay, major advantage. And also, and I think we get this at majors, lag putting is also going to be very important. And it's very important here. Okay. There's your list. That's your main group. And let's go through the ones that stick out for us the most. Of course, we got to talk about Scotty. This is a tough one because, yes, again, Scotty did not play last week. Now, a couple of things with the whole taking the week off before, and maybe even, again, I was talking about some of those other big trends regarding playing the week before or not. And it's also, look, no matter what trend I come up with, because there's another one in there too, besides that. But you have to keep in mind it's kind of hard sometimes to really differentiate what trends should matter more based on how the schedule's changed. Because 40 years ago, whenever it was, before they started to play like Wells Fargo, before the U.S. Open, before the PGA Championship, it was a tough golf course. It was a fun golf course and so forth, but it didn't have all the best players in the world coming. So it was a little bit different in way of thinking for many years. So if I talk about that trend for like 23 years, if you think about it, the last, say, couple of years, 2 or 3 years, could be different. Now, I haven't noticed anything yet, but we'll have to keep an eye on that, especially even, hey, if something happens this year after the weekend, I look at it and I notice, oh, yeah, Scotty Scheffler had no problem. He won. Didn't even play last week. Then that's a trend that we definitely are going to wind up, maybe, well, that's the one thing we always want to do is even if there's a trend going in one direction, we're always going to let you know, hey, what's happened the last year or two? And if that's actually changed a little bit, then I think you'll have your answer. But look, Scotty, result-wise, it looks great. Runner-up in his last 3 events. But the problem is he's not winning those events, and he's not winning some of them where he had all the opportunity to win. And that's been the problem right now, is that even though he's playing better recently after the recent birth of his child, he's still not on top of his game. So there's still, look, is he playing well? Yeah, it's anybody would want 3 straight runner-ups, but Scotty's used to winning. And so there's something that's still off on his game. And there are several things that are still off on his game. So that's the thing you're just dealing with. And you're also, once again, dealing with someone that's 5-1, even though several months ago you were looking at 3-1. So 5-1 might actually be tempting to some people who love Scotty Scheffler. But at 5-1, it's still we're not going to give, as I've said many times before in this show, I'm not going to give you a player like Scotty Scheffler, even if we like him. If we are in that situation, we'll get him on a one and done, and we'll let you know about that. And we have. We've had Scotty in both of our one and dones are already given up this year. And he actually, I think we were like 2nd and 3rd maybe. So he actually did well without winning. So we got just about as much as we could out of Scotty without winning. And but hey, you know what? If you're thinking about taking Scotty for a major and you still have him a one and done, this is not a bad idea coming off 3 straight runner-ups. Okay, then you got Rory, and at 9-1, That's still a number it's still not you're not getting a bargain there, of course. And he's coming off a Masters win, meaning you'd have to win back-to-back majors. We know how difficult that is, but he's made 16 out of 17 cuts at the PGA. He's got the 2 PGA wins, but get this, even though he has 4 top 5s, he has not had a top 5 in his last 11 trips to the PGA Championship since his last PGA win. So that definitely was 47th last year. That kind of strikes out. That definitely is something that really I can take notice of, and I think you can too. The interesting thing is that even though he's struggling a little bit on the Bermuda greens, that's like one thing that he's kind of off on. He's actually been really good statistically on bent grass. We'll see. But yeah. No top 5s in his last 11 PGA Championships. Coming off the Masters win, I got to pass. As far as Cameron Young, the one thing that sticks out in a negative way, and it's a big deal, is that his long iron game has been a little bit erratic. Everything else in his arsenal is better than ever by far. He is right now, today, the hottest, even over Scotty, because he's winning. Cameron is the hottest and the best based on stats player over the last couple of months, even with the fact he's struggling with the long iron play. But he's been so good with everything else, including the putter, and that also is on bent grass. He's been getting better there lately, even though he hasn't had as many attempts on bent grass as Bermuda, but he's still doing well there. He does have a top 5 out of 4 PGA appearances. That was actually his first appearance when he finished 3rd 4 years ago. He's coming in with 6 top 10s in his last 7 with a couple of wins. He was 3rd at the Masters. Yeah, Cameron Young is going to win a major this year. He's just playing too well not to. I'm looking at the U.S. Open. That's my target for Cam Young, is the U.S. Open. But I definitely think he's just too hot right now, that even though he's struggling with the iron play, he's too hot for me to ignore. I don't like the fact that the iron plays off and he's 12-1. That's a combo I don't like. But I think what I noticed when I went through everything today to finalize this, I realized that, there are a lot of contenders, normal contenders, that there is something, there are things about their game coming in that I've easily been able to nitpick and say, oh yeah, because normally you have to nitpick some of these great players if they're playing so great, like Scotty and so forth, like I just did. But I think there are enough players that are playing really well, and they're playing really well compared to other players that are either on a bad streak. Remember, we talked about this last week. All those players. Remember, we told you all about those players that were having that. They haven't had a top 10 in the last 10, in the last 8, and it worked out for us. We had a great week last week. Nothing's changed, really, this week. A lot of those same players are still struggling. So I think there are, again, look, we all know any of these players that are struggling can still come out, win, no problem. But on average, that's what we always go with. We have to try to figure out a way to stay on the course, stay on average, and beat these guys. And if it works out in our favor on average, that's why I just got to stick with Cam. I think that's the way to go in one way, shape, or form, whether it's one and done or with a pick. Bryson is also here. And Bryson, I think, is a real, this is tough because I took Bryson in one of my one and dones in the Masters. So I only have one left in my 2 groups. And I think he's really under consideration here for me. And I told you he won the U.S. Open in 2024 at the location that is considered the most similar major with our research. He's got the 2 wins. That's important this year. He's 3rd Virginia on Sunday in the Live. But the miscut at the Masters is the thing that sticks out. And that's the thing that it puts because I took him. He was my top pick, and it was a disaster from start to finish, or Thursday to Friday. Just a disaster. Never in it. And so I'm a little bit gun shy taking him here. but he's so good here. In his last 5 PGA Championship appearances, he has 4 top 5s and back-to-back runner-ups coming in. So he is just lights out. I don't think anybody has that sort of resume coming in here over that stretch. So there's a lot to like about him. So all I can say is, but the other thing too is just going with live players. That's always just tough anyway. With Bryson and all this controversy going on with live lately, you do know you're going to get a highly motivated player. I mean, everybody wants to win. They'd kill whoever to win a major, that sort of deal. But I just get the feeling that nobody wants it more than Bryson this week, because we already know what kind of a competitor he is. But you've got this live PGA Tour thing going on, everything that's negative about live. They pretty much, John Rahm and DeChambeau, both of them, the 2 top guys at live, just were embarrassed at the Masters. I just think, especially with Bryson's record here overall, because even though he had a couple of good records the last couple of years at the Masters, we also noticed that there were some issues with his game at Augusta, but he was still able to forge ahead. Couldn't do it this year, which actually makes me believe that he may have a hard time ever winning a green jacket. But outside of that, he's a really solid play, I think, especially at 20-1. Moving on, let's see who else I should go over here. Well, you got to talk about Matthew Fitzpatrick, just like Cameron Young. I mean, Matthew Fitzpatrick is just having a phenomenal season, and we've been behind him, as you know. We had the winner with him at the Valspar. So, we remember we've told you that in his lone major win at the U.S. Open, he was our top pick there. So, whatever percentage of players that we've actually hit for majors over the years, or whatever the number is, it's not like it's a lot. So when we do hit a major winner, it sticks with us in a very positive way. And then we hit again Matthew this year, and so there's a lot for us to like about Matthew and his game. It's statistically speaking, he is as good as any golfer right now with all the stats across the board that are the most important for the PGA Championship. There's really the only thing that sticks out at all is the putting on bent grass. That's the thing. That's it. So he's struggling a little bit there. He's not awful. He's just struggling a little bit there, but I'm not worried too much about that completely. You have somebody that has not only won 2 PGA events this year and had the runner-up at the Players, but also had to win in late November. That really started this when he won the DP World Tour Championship, and that ended that European Tour season. And then he picked things off this year and has had just an incredible run. So Matthew Fitzpatrick, yes, he has to be under consideration. And of course, he wins the team deal with his brother. We'll get to his brother later. So everything going great for Fitzpatrick. The only thing, he didn't play well last week. 52nd. We talked about the top 30 run. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, will Scotty Scheffler buck the trend, win the championship? Didn't play. Will Matthew Fitzpatrick buck the trend, win the championship after a 52nd the week before? And again, this is why I talk about how these trends could be different, because some players going into an event like last week, like, how do we know what's in Matthew Fitzpatrick's mind last week? Maybe it's just, I'm going to just, I've got a couple of wins this year already. I'm playing great. This is all about a major now. You think I really care about the Truest? I've already got a couple of wins. I've got a lot of money. And so even look at Cam Young. Cam Young set himself up to win. Tommy and Cam set themselves up to win on Sunday, especially Cam, the way he's playing. And Cam had nothing on Sunday. What do you think that was? It's pretty obvious. Everything was going great for Cam heading up and all of a sudden, the closer he got, especially on Sunday, after the great day on Saturday, it put him in position to win. There was nothing there. And so that's about playing the week before major. So that's going to be something. We'll see. We'll see if those trends disappear after this weekend, and then we'll highlight that next year. Okay. Also, Tommy Fleetwood, the last one before we move on here with these guys. Tommy does not have a great resume here. Only one top 5 and 11 PGA Tour championships. Matter of fact, that's his only top 20. He was 8th in 2018 when they played here in the BMW Championship. The putter on bent grass is excellent. That's a great sign. And a lot of stats are working really well for Tommy Fleetwood. Long iron game, his accuracy, his scrambling, lots of good stuff. The sand saves are the only thing that he's behind there. But and the other thing that was really important was he was kind of in a rut for a few weeks where things just were, especially his iron game in total was not really that great. But he came through big enough last week, as I mentioned, and put himself in position. It was just him and Cam as far as the big guns that were there. And so, but just like Cam, nothing on Sunday. But very important that he got his game going again. And now he's in a situation that even though some of his iron game is off, and most of the other stats are good, the one part, though, of his iron game that's on is the long iron game. So I think Tommy is a really good option this week, and he's trying to break through just like Cam Young is trying to break through for a first major. All right, next up, let's go to the contenders. Lots here. All right, let's go through the list of the players that we zeroing in the most. Colin Morikawa, 45-1. Yes, I just can't stop thinking about taking Colin Morikawa. And that's just because of the fact that whenever I get good odds like this since the back injury, and really until last week, that was and we didn't take Morikawa last week, but until last week, that was the first result since the back injury that it wasn't there. But I can see a lot of people, wait a second. That's right. I didn't take him last week. What am I saying? He didn't play last week. Yeah. I was thinking about the Cadillac. Okay. The Cadillac. Yeah. I think that one I did take him. Yeah. So that one, I took him at the Cadillac. He finished 62nd, and that was disappointing. And we have taken him, I think, pretty much. I think how many events is he? I think he's played like 3 events since the back injury. But he comes off with the great start. Let me see if I can get his results here. But he comes up with the great 7th at the Masters. And he really gutted it out because he would have been a great pick at the Masters. He has a really good resume at Augusta. And so, but he did it. He went in and he performed well. And then he came right back with the RBC Heritage and finished 4th. And once again, we took him. So we took him. I don't know if we took him at the Masters. We might have, but I don't remember. But we took him at RBC Heritage with his 4th, and we did take him at the Cadillac Championship when he finished 62nd. Now, again, that's his last result since this week, which it doesn't matter if it's the week before. In fact, Colin is coming in on 2, is sort of doing what Phil Mickelson, remember? The trend said that Phil Mickelson was the only one that bucked both trends. Well, that's what Colin was going to try to do. Not just one of them, but both of them, because he didn't play last week. And the last score and last result before is, if he were to win, is 62nd. So those are 2 situations that Colin comes in for. But look, I'm not going to worry myself too much with that 62nd and say, oh, it had to be an injury. I have no idea why he backed out of the event this week or last week at the True West, but it's all about value. That's all it is. And is he one of my top plays, like top 2 or 3 plays? Probably not. Between one and done and just making picks. But still, I think he's one of the best value plays on the board, and values with handicapping is so important, as you know. You're looking at a player, when you take a look at all of the stats, there's not one thing that he is doing poorly. Matter of fact, even the putter is just about elite as it is. on bent grass. He's second overall, right around top 5, but I think he was second before last week, which he did not play in strokes gained approach. So there's nothing to not like about Collin Morikawa's game right now except the injury. That's it. If you still believe that the injury is going to hurt his chances to win this week, then I understand. But I'm not wagering on a guy at 30-1 or 15-1, because let's just be honest. If Collin Morikawa had no issues at all health-wise, he'd be 15-1. He'd be right there with Cameron Young probably as the third or fourth choice. And Collin Morikawa has always picked things up in big events like the majors. So he does have 3 top 10s out of 6. He's never missed a cut at the PGA Championship. And in his very first appearance, as you saw with the trend we showed you before, he won the PGA Championship back in 2020. So he did buck a trend there, winning on his very first try. So, yeah, if you're looking for value, Collin Morikawa definitely has it. Also, how about this? Brooks Koepka, who has 3 wins, is 12 out of 13 as far as cuts, but he missed a cut last year. And that's really when Brooks has changed his game the last couple of years. That's why he's out of live. That's why he's trying to get his game back again mentally here with the PGA Tour. And he is playing well. He's got 5 top 20s in his last 6. He was 11th at Myrtle Beach over the weekend. He's number 1 on the PGA Tour in long irons, 200 or more. Number 3 in strokes gained approach. Those are the 2 biggest stats coming this week. But the problem is he's not good at the rest of them. The short game is completely off. Putting is off. He's not even accurate. And again, he's not on top of his game. To expect him to win this, if you're going to take one of these guys, you're taking Justin Thomas. One of these players that we talked about before. Also, you have to keep an eye on Justin Rose. You absolutely have to. We've said this before early on in the year. I'm taking Justin Rose and Adam Scott. I've already done it with futures in every major because they're all pretty decent odds, especially Adam Scott. This is a good one for Justin. Even though he missed a cut last year, going into last year, he was on a run of 5 straight top 15s in PGA Championship play, with 4 of those top 10s. He's had 2 top 5s in his career. He was runner-up in the 2018 BMW Championship, played at Aronimink. And don't forget, he already has a win, and he was 3rd at the Masters. Now, if you think about it, get this. Besides the win at the Farmers Insurance and the 3rd at the Masters, he does not have a top 10 anywhere else. Not that he's played a heavy schedule, but still. What does that tell you? Especially with the Masters. Guys like Justin Rose and Adam Scott are mainly going to just pick up their game for majors. They both have 1 major win. They desperately want a second. The second one really validates you, and they are determined for it. And that's the reason why I've taken them in all of these majors. And if I can just hit him in one, I'm going to be doing really well. And I think Justin Rose, based on his results at the PGA Championship, based on how he's playing this year in several big events, I think is a really solid play. Okay. Let's see. Who else do we like here out of this group? Patrick Cantlay. Let's talk about him. He has now hit a run of 4 straight top 15s, and he had really disappeared for a while. So he's on a good track, 10th last week, 12th at the Masters, but he only has 2 top 10s out of 9 in the PGA Championship, 3rd in 2019, but he's missed a cut in 2 of the last 3 years. But really, what I like about Cantlay is, and again, if you're going to go by the courses that you put out there, you got to go with it. And the fact is that out of the courses I showed you that are similar to this one, he's got 5 career top 15s, 2 top 5s, and a runner-up. So he's played pretty well, maybe as good as anybody with those other courses that are the most similar. Throw in the fact that he's playing his best golf. Look, I don't expect Patrick Cantlay at this stage of his career to win a major. I just don't think. I never bought into Patrick Cantlay as a big game winner, that type of thing. But look, the odds are okay at 45-1, and actually I wish I got a little bit better than that. But still, he has to be somebody to look at. All right, Justin Thomas, again, look, same thing, 45-1. I wish I had a little bit better odds on JT because he's still, to me, I think you have to look at JT the way you look at Morikawa, because that's the way you're looking at it. JT coming off the injury, now he's healthy and he's starting to gear up. The more events he plays, the fresher he's looking, he's catching up, trying to catch up to everybody else. And he's doing that. He's trending in the right direction. He had a good week last week. He's got the win at the 2019 BMW Championship, and 12th at the Aronimink BMW in 2018. So he's got a win on one of the similar courses. He played decently here on this one. And there are a few things that are going well for him, but the stats overall are tough to gauge because they're so bad for the most part. But that's because he really was off his game coming off the injury. So it's very hard to judge any stats you see from Justin Thomas right now. So it's a really hard one to gauge. But what I can say is that the proof is there. He's got 2 PGA wins, and he's starting to trend in the right direction. I just wish I had a little bit more than 45-1. Who else on this list I want to? Oh, yeah. Sam Burns. Sam Burns is interesting because he's starting to pop up now in majors, something he had never done before until recently. His long iron game is good. At putter, he's like right now in Bentgrass, maybe the best putter going right now. So there are things to like. 7th at the Masters, but don't forget the thing that and by the way, he was 19th here last year, which was his best finish ever in the PGA Championship. As I said, he's starting to play better in majors. The problem is even when he's putting himself to win like the US Open or the Masters, he can just completely fold on Sunday. Now, at least Burns, even though he didn't have a great Sunday at the Masters, Okay, so that was terrific. Anyway, we're back. So for the on-demand viewers, you hopefully you're going to see I'm going to put a little bit of a note on the bottom of the screen that is going to tell you that there is an interruption for 5 minutes because of my stupid internet service here. So it knocks you off. All it takes is 2 seconds and we're knocked off, but we're right back. So unfortunately, the live viewers did not get a chance to probably hang on because they probably figured something happened permanently, but it didn't. Okay, so let's get right back to it. The only problem is I have no idea where we left off. So unfortunately, we're probably going to miss a few things, but let's just go again here and take a look at some of these other players that are on this list. So as you can see, another player that we talked about, not just Justin Rose, but Adam Scott, and there he is. All of his stats, look, he's done a great job with the long iron game, 200 or more. He has been elite. Matter of fact, he's the #1 player in the world in strokes gained approach. That's how good he's playing this year. A lot of other things with his game is solid. The only thing that, of course, holds him back is the putter. So that's the thing about Adam, is if he can figure out and have a really good day with the putter. So being able to have that really elite strokes gained approach part of his game is going to be real critical. Meaning, if he can set himself up, as I mentioned before, in the best possible spots, landing spots on the greens, make his life a lot easier with the putter. Okay, who else do we have here? I will say this. I'm a little bit surprised that Hideki is 70-1 because he's made 12 out of 13 cuts. And just like Koepka, the only one he missed was last year. But there are problems. He's had only 2 top 5s in the PGA Championship, and he hasn't had one in the last 8 appearances. And he's only had 2 top 15s in his career in the PGA Championship. And the funny thing is his putter has not been good at all, but that's on Bermuda. He's actually been pretty decent on bent grass. And there are some other stats that he's been really good at, but the problem is no top 10s in his last 7 on the year. So he really hasn't been on top of his game, but still, it's seeing him at 70-1. That's pretty eye popping. Also on this list is Patrick Reed. I think he's somebody to keep an eye on. You got a player who has major ability. We know that. He was runner-up here in 2017, but that was his only top 5, and he really hasn't had like a great resume at the PGA. But this year, overall, and he's been off since the Masters, this year he's got 7 top 30s in 7 events. He had the 2 wins on the DP World Tour and a runner-up on the DP World Tour. He was 12th at the Masters. So he's playing some really great golf, better than he's played in years. So that's why I just keep an eye on him at 65-1. And also keep an eye on Min-Woo Lee. We went with him last week and he disappointed us, but he also had a great Sunday. He had a 64 on Sunday. And that's what actually put us in pretty good position with the contest. But anyway, Min-Woo, if you take a look at his game, he does have 2 top 20s in 4 appearances. He also is trending in the right direction. He was 14th all told on Sunday after the 64, back-to-back top 20s. And he has, overall a good year. I still think it's asking a lot, though, for Min-Woo Lee to win a major because he hasn't taken off overall after the start he had. So he's getting there, probably too early to consider, but he is a big number. And you got to keep an eye on a player that might be hot coming in after the big day on Sunday. Okay, we got to talk about Ricky Fowler. And as you know, we've taken Ricky the last couple of events. We also took Kurt Kitayama the last couple of events, and they did great for us the last couple of events. But Ricky is playing fantastic. 8th, 9th, and 2nd in his last 3. If you look at his resume in PGAs, he's got just 2 top 5s, so it's not a great one. But, Ricky's never had like a tremendous major resume. He was 8th in this event, or I should say in the BMW Championship at this course in 2018. The putter, even though it let him down on Sunday, if the putter was on late on Sunday, I think he wins. But the putter let down, yet he's been very good on bent grass too. So that's important. A lot going on in his game that's working, including the short game. Excuse me. I would just say the scrambling part of his game. He's still actually a little bit off with the sand save percentage, but scrambling really going well for Ricky. So he's got a lot working for him, including the fact he's red hot. You're getting a big number. I took him at 100 to 1 on Sunday night. And normally I don't get the opportunity to even look at the odds on Sunday night very often. But I said, you know what? I got such a busy week. Let me try to get this out of the way. So I put all of my work in over the weekend. And so I was able to take a look at the early odds on Sunday. And I saw Ricky 100 to 1 after what happened to him on Sunday. And I jumped all over him, obviously. And then sure enough, he's down to 60 to 1 after that. Okay. Also, I think are we done with this list here? Let me just, let's throw in JJ Spawn. Yeah, we don't usually back JJ Spawn too often, but look, there's a lot to like about Spawn. He's got a win this year. You take a look at the parts of his game that work here. The long iron games are solid. Accuracy is good. Strokes gained approach, excellent. But there's a few things that are off most, and it really points to his short game. The short game is not good right now. And so I think when you're taking a look at both scrambling and sand save percentage, and both of those are struggling, I think that's going to be kind of hard for him to do well here. And he's also not really going well on bent grass green putting. So there are some definite issues. But hey, you're talking about a 70 to 1 player who won a major late last year. And even though he doesn't have a great resume at the PGA Championship, that's okay because he's never had a great resume in majors anywhere. Matter of fact, the win at the U.S. Open was his only ever top 20 in a major. 11 appearances in majors. He's got 1 top 20, and that was a win at the U.S. Open. But the reason I'm bringing him up now also is because he's trending after the win. He's trending now back right in the perfect way you want to trend. 14th at the RBC, I believe. 5th last week at the Truist. So he's got to be dangerous at 70 to 1. I think that's it of this list. Yes. One more. That's Nikolai Højgaard. Nikolai went from 100 to 1 to 65 to 1 after his performance, just like Ricky. Basically did the same thing like Ricky. And look, Nikolai doesn't have like a great resume in the PGA, but he doesn't have a great resume in most majors because he is not experienced enough. But remember when we took him last week, what we talked about? That the reason I liked him last week was because we got ourselves a player that could be the type of a player that could handle winning a big event. He's got that in him. He's got that DP victory in 2023, and that was so huge for him with all the best players in the European Tour there, the McIlroys, the Fleetwoods, you name it, he beat them. And he's now trending in the right direction with that runner-up last week. He also has 3 runner-ups now on a PGA Tour, 2 this year. And the 2 stats that are very important here, the long iron game and strokes gain approach, are excellent. He's still having accuracy problems. There's no doubt about that. So he's not a perfect player yet, but his game right now is just hot coming in. And I'm sorry, but if guys like JJ Spawn can win a major, so can Nikolai Højgaard. I just think he has a better chance at the final 2 events. This one's kind of hard to win if you're an outlier. Again, we went over all the trends and things like that. This is just one of those events that he or anybody that is not considered an elite player will have a harder time. So if you're looking for a really good player this year to win a major, but they're not like top 20 in the world, that type of player, you look at the U.S. Open, believe it or not, and we'll get into all their historical stats in a few weeks, and the Open Championship. Okay, now let's move on to the long shots, official long shots. Here we go. All right, the official long shots. And the ones by Jake Knapp, I believe, is withdrawn. Okay, taking a look now. Gary Woodland definitely sticks out. He's got the win at Houston. His long iron game has been excellent. He was 17th last week. That was a good one. So he has a couple top 10s, but that's not great. Look, Gary Woodland is one of these players that does not have a great resume in majors, but won a major. And he's just a solid top 50 player in the world. That's what Gary Woodland is. At his best, he's a top 30 player. And right now he's 47th. Of course, he's still on his way back from the brain surgery. Amazing that he's able to get a win on the PGA Tour. And now he's back to playing the way Gary Woodland is capable of playing. That does not seem to be an issue with him. It's in the past. But you're talking about a 100-to-1 player. So I think he's definitely one of these long shots you want to be keeping an eye on. Alex Fitzpatrick. How do you not keep an Alex Fitzpatrick right now? He is hot. In his last 4 events this year, he was 4th last week. Looked like he was going to win the thing. 9th at the Cadillac. He wins the Indian Open over in Europe. And his 6th the event before that in Europe. So that's his last 4 events, points events. Throw in the win with his brother in the team event, and this guy's been on fire, and he's 100-to-1. So again, do I expect Alex Fitzpatrick to win a major? No, but he's 100-to-1, and a player like that is definitely going to come in handy, I think, in our fantasy contest that we're going to get to in a little bit. Look, Kurt Kitayama, once again, has really done well for us. Again, we've used him the last couple of weeks. He gave us a 19th last week and a 9th before that. He's got 3 straight top 20s coming in with 2 top 10s. He has 1 top 5 in 6 appearances in the PGA Championship. And there are some good stats that is going well for him. The putter's been solid on bent grass. Strokes gained approach, very good. Scrambling, solid. So there's some nice things going there for Mr. Kitayama. Also, Harris English. We got to talk about Harris English as 100-to-1 shot. He was runner-up last year to Scotty Scheffler. He is coming in here now. Let's see. He's got only 1 top 5 on the year, and that's been the thing that we've talked about with Harris, is that you never know, just like the runner-up in this event last year, you never know when Harris is going to come out and contend. He's going to hang in there with all his top 25s and everything. And then one week he's going to come up there and he's going to contend. And sometimes he'll win. The putting on bent grass has been elite. Not many better than him on bent grass. His long iron game is elite. That's a great combo. And even his scrambling, and his accuracy is good. The only thing that's been an issue for him is strokes gained approach. Okay. But the fact that he's got the hot putter, hopefully for him, will compensate. So I think there are some things to like about 100-to-1 shot Harris English. Another player you want to keep an eye on for a bargain salary cap player. Others include Thomas Dietrich at 175-to-1. Dietrich was 4th in the PGA Championship a couple of years ago. He had the win at the Phoenix Open last year, took the money at LIV, but he's been playing excellent at LIV. Remember, I mentioned this a month or so ago. Keep an eye on Thomas Dietrich as a nice long shot play in some of these majors. He's got 5 top 10s out of 7 over there, with a 2nd, a 3rd, a 5th, and a 6th. And the 6th was on Sunday in Virginia. Also, if you look at it, he played in that U.S. Open in 2024 and finished a very respectable 14th. Wyndham Clark. I got to throw Wyndham Clark in there because at 150-to-1, even though this is like one of his worst majors historically, he took some time off after going 21st and 16th. And that was actually pretty good for him because he hadn't put back-to-back results like that for 6 months maybe. But he took some time off now. And so we don't know what's going on regarding his game after the 21st and the 16th. He's just a dangerous player. So look, if he was like 45th and 42nd, he wouldn't even be on this board. But he's such a dangerous player that has been known to come from absolutely nowhere when you're thinking about him and win. So that's why I want to bring him up. And also the two major stats are at his best. The long iron game, he's been excellent. And his strokes gained approach also has been good. So there are things to take notice with Wyndham. I don't even know if he'll make the cut, but all I know is that he's a dangerous player for a long shot. A couple other players that I also think you might want to consider as long shots. Nick Taylor. I've mentioned him before over the last year or two. I think he's got a major win in him. I really do. I think at some point he's shown the ability to have just such metal at big moments, especially with that putter when you need to sink like he did to win that Canadian Open. He's never made the cut in the PGA Championship. 0 for 4. 23 combined over par. I'm not saying he's winning this week. All I'm saying is that he's coming in with back-to-back top 25s. He was 9th at the Cadillac. Actually, back-to-back top 15s. He was 9th at the Cadillac, 14th last week. So he has his game going. Now, also the thing to consider is a lot of the stats that are necessary to play well this week, he's doing well. Accuracy, long iron play, both solid. Strokes gained approach, very good. And his short game, very good, both scrambling and sand saves. So there's a lot to like. Everything is good about Nick Taylor, except his PGA Championship resume. But remember, this is a different course. It's also a different player. It's another year. I'd keep an eye on Nick Taylor. I also wanted to throw Dustin Johnson on the board there because Dustin's game has gone to crap. Everybody knows the last few years, ever since he took the money. And I know he's got other reasons why, but he actually is playing better lately. He has, in LIV, of course, he has back-to-back top 20s coming in, 6 top 25s on the year. He was 33rd at the Masters, which is not all that bad. And he's got the runner-up at the Wells Fargo in 2017. He's got the win at the BMW in 2017, a runner-up in the BMW in 2020. So he's been very impressive on those similar courses, even though we know that was a different Dustin Johnson. But I'm just saying. And overall here, he's got 3 top 5s and 2 runner-ups. So if Dustin's game was a little bit better, like let's say, and who knows, maybe by the end of the year, he'll start hitting top 10s in the LIV, or maybe he'll be a contender for a win. And he might not be a bad long shot play at the LIV, to tell you the truth, to keep an eye on. But I just have to put him in there because there's so many things with his history that actually work here. But to think about Dustin Johnson winning a major, the way things have gone for him the last few years, is very unlikely. And I'm going to bring up Matt McCarty's name again because we liked him last week, and he did well again with another top 10. So now he has back-to-back top 10s, 3 straight top 15s, 4 straight top 25s coming in, and his putter on bent grass has been elite. So there are some things to like. He's in his second PGA Championship, missed the cut last year. I don't have Jaden Shaper's name up on that list, but I just want to keep an eye on him in the future. I mentioned him a couple of months ago. We talked about it when Jan Stevenson, we were on the Masters show. Fact is, Jan pointed out that Jaden is the top player you want to be keeping an eye on that plays in the DP World Tour. So just keep an eye on that. You're going to get an opportunity to see him this week, and we'll see if he can make the cut and show a little bit of his game here on U.S. soil. And that's it. All right. So let's now take a look at the picks. So here they are. Here are the official picks. And I'm just going to be pretty simple about this and go with red hot, value, veteran that's looking for that second major, and red hot, Ricky Fowler. Again, now there's just not a lot of players that are red hot. And so, and again, we're not including Scotty in this. So I'm going to go with this group. And I'd say out of this group, the guys that just missed out, Bryson DeChambeau definitely just missed out. Tommy Fleetwood definitely just missed out. Those would be two that just missed out. And then also in contention, I'd say Justin Thomas. I would make him Adam Scott. They would definitely be in contention. And then you've got, before we get to the long shots, a few of the other guys that I was considering that we've already talked about. Patrick Cantlay, even though I still can't get myself to do that with a major with Patrick, but another Patrick Reed. I mentioned Minwoo. Again, these are outliers. Nikolai Højgaard. And then the long shots. Again, the best long shots. Alex Fitzpatrick, Gary Woodland, Kurt Kitayama. Spawn's in there. English is in there. And a few of the others I mentioned just at the end. All right, now let's take a look at the one and dones. And this is for me personally. And these are my one and dones. So I have one more chance at Matthew Fitzpatrick. That's in my number one group, and I'm taking it. Okay, so I'm going because I have one more opportunity for Cameron Young, and I'm saving him for the U.S. Open. So unless something happens in the next few weeks with Cam's game or health, I'm going to use Cam Young in the U.S. Open in one and done in Group 1. And I have Justin Rose available in both. And remember, we talked about this, that I was saving Justin for the majors. And so I'm going to use him in my Group 2 here. And then I'm going to use Justin in Group 1. Probably it's going to have to be the Open Championship, it looks like, because I'm going to have Cam Young in Group 1 for the U.S. Open. But that, again, things can change, but that's how it's looking, again, for me. Now, if I was, again, let's say this was all things equal and I could go with anybody I wanted, I'd have to seriously consider Scotty based on the way he's playing. So I would definitely consider him this week. I wouldn't save him for something else other than maybe the U.S. Open. So if I started all over, or I had Scotty in my bag and I had two chances for him, I'd play him the next two majors because I know how big he wants the U.S. Open. So I don't care about the Open Championship. So hot player, I'd play him this week, and then I'd play Scotty at the U.S. Open if you have him in two groups like I do. Again, Bryson, I could change these. I've often said that. Matter of fact, last week I did change. Remember, I said I had Oberg and Schauffele. I took out Schauffele and I put in Ricky. So that's how that was painful. Not only did I miss out on the contest with Ricky, but I missed out on one and done when I made the switch late. But I would look at, but DeChambeau was someone that I really came close to taking this week too. And I really can't see anybody else that opens my eye as far as a top player that I would be interested in that I didn't already take. Okay, now let's wrap it up with the fantasy game. We kind of started that way. So here is the contest. This is the $2.5 million contest. So I said, hey, I made the $150 this past week. So hey, let me throw $25 into the $1 million contest, right? So anyway, I'll probably just add another $5 one like I normally do. But right now, this is what I'm looking at. All right. So I'm looking at Cam Young, Fitzpatrick, Rose, Fowler, the players I've already mentioned that I've taken. And then for bargains, the best bargains, I'm going with Nikolai and Alex Fitzpatrick. Okay, now let's take a look at them. All right, so let's go down here. By the way, there's my boy, Martin Keimer. He was my favorite golfer when he was on the PGA Tour. All right. And, did I win big money with Martin? I won the most money I'd ever won at his players win. It was amazing. Okay. So let's see who sticks out here for other bargains. We got to keep going. Nobody yet. Okay, here we go. McCarty, 5,700. I'd keep an eye on him. All right. So you got a hot golfer right now. Like I said, you got a hot elite putter. That's a nice combination. He just hasn't played in many majors and missed the cut in his only attempt at the major in the PGA. So that's hard, but we're not trying to win here with McCarty. We just want a top 20. If we can get McCarty in a top 20, that's we'll take that. Nick Taylor, I would look at him. Just mention that. Again, it's a little bit of a risk. He's never made a cut, but we're talking about bargains. Okay, who else sticks out as a bargain? Poston was, I think it was 5th last year. Yeah, he was 5th last year, but man, has his game gone away pretty quickly. Here's Dietrich. I think Dietrich's a solid play at 6,100 as a bargain. I told you how he's playing over on the Live Tour. And remember, he had the top 5. What did we say he was? He had the top 5 2 years ago in the PGA. Yeah, he was 4th 2 years ago in the PGA Championship. So he's a very good player. It's unfortunate he's in Live, but he's making money. But anyway, Dietrich is definitely a player you need to consider for a bargain. There's Shaper. There's last week's winner. Screwed me out of a lot of money last week. Okay, who else looks good here? We're starting to get a little bit higher here in money. And this is the area where I picked Nikolai. All right. And Fitzpatrick was way back. Who else might stick out here? Let's see. Rye. I know Rye has been doing a little bit better. What do we got on Rye? Yeah, he's actually in his 3 appearances in the PGA Championship. He's actually played better in each one. He was 19th last year. And also, he was 5th last week. Keep an eye on the fact, too, that the one thing that he's got going for him is he's a very accurate player. But I don't know. I mean, again, top 20, sure, I could see that. Anyone else that sticks out? Noren's had 2 good appearances the last 2 at the PGA Championship, 17th and 12th. He's also been playing a little bit better. He was 31st last week and 7th at the Cadillac. It's just unfortunate that Noren still has not won a PGA Tour event on U.S. soil, or I don't think he's ever won a PGA Tour event, period. I don't think so, yeah. Or has he? I don't know. Bottom line is he had that great end of the season last year when he was over in Europe. And his world ranking is in the top 20. But he just wasn't able to pick it up in the States. Okay, there's DJ. There's Clark. No way would I take those guys in this situation. There's English. That's not bad. 7,200. But again, even English is a little volatile in my mind. There's Woodland. Much rather have Gary Woodland than Harris English, to tell you the truth, in this situation. But 2 good options. I mean, I don't want to put English down. It's just that he's very erratic at times. And I don't know if you want to go with that, but he's a bargain, still a bargain price. There's Kitayama. And he's done, like I said, back-to-back weeks. I mean, I just can't take him this week because there's no reason to. Look, he's got the same price as Ricky Fowler. I'm not sure why I'd take Kitayama over Fowler in this situation. And that's the reason why I'm not. But, deciding to take him, see, I can't even, the way my money is, I think I'm pretty set. Well, I got $500 left over. So I couldn't even take him if I dropped Nikolai for him. I couldn't do that. So, and again, I see no reason for me to drop any of these guys up here. And most of them, well, the top 3 are making a lot of money. And I'm not dropping Ricky. He's just too hot right now for me in the contest. So I'm just, and I've said this to everybody out there that ever listens to me, that anytime you take somebody or a team and you get a win, and I see no reason not to take him again the next time. And then if they do pretty well for you, and again, it depends on what sport it is or what because did you have to win? Like, let's say Tyler Reddick in NASCAR won whatever, 3 events, or I forget even how many he won this year already, 3 or 4. And I remember saying, no, I wouldn't take Tyler Reddick this week. But if you did, then take him. And then like after the second win, it was like, hey man, if you've got him the first 2 weeks, then you have to take him. And that's just the thing. Because in my mind, if these players or teams, if they make money for you and you've got money in your vault because of them, and you've got more than enough to play with, then why don't you just put a little bit even on that player or team, even if you don't think they're good for this week? Because here's why. If you don't do it and they win again, you're going to kick yourself. You're going to go, how on earth did I do that? I tried to come up with all sorts of reasons not to take them. I tried to convince myself that, no, it's not good this week. I'm not going to do it. It doesn't do this to that. That's not a good matchup, whatever. Just stick with the team or the player that has made you money. That's my advice. You can do what you want, obviously, but trust me. And I say these things because I've learned it all myself. I've learned being in these spots over the years of hitting myself for not doing the things that are just so simple. And so anytime something simple comes up like this, I try to just share it with you guys. Just don't let that get away from you. There's Adam at 7,500. I think that's a good play. I think that's a definite play there. There's Minwoo. He might be a little bit, though. Yeah, I probably wouldn't take Minwoo in a contest, to tell you the truth. JJ's at 7,700. I could see JJ having a solid week this week. Whether he wins or not, I could see him top 10, top 20. So I would definitely consider JJ Spawn. I tell you, if Ricky Fowler wasn't so hot and I wasn't taking him, I might take JJ Spawn in this spot because I could afford it. Who else? Anybody else looks good here? No, now we're starting to get into expensive territory. So, yeah. All right. So there you go. This is looking like what we're going to do. We got a couple of days to change our mind, but I don't really see me doing that because, the only guys that I didn't take at the top that I would consider would be Fleetwood, but I'm only having to go 3,000 more with Fitzpatrick, and he's had such a bigger year so far than Fleetwood, so I wouldn't do that. I think Hovland is just no way. There's certain players, like I said, Hovland's one of them. He's not on top of his game. Schauffele, last week did not play well. I'm so lucky I took him out of my one and done. Because even again, if you don't win, at least you had. I gained 1,000 places in my first group for. I don't remember who I had in that group. I don't know if it was Ricky. Might have been Ricky. That's why, because he finished second, probably. Even though it could have been Oberg, because Oberg also had a good Sunday and actually had a pretty good finish. Let's see. Yeah, Oberg, even though he's playing well, the problem is his odds at 22-1, I think. He's even getting better odds than Tommy Fleetwood. And I know Fleetwood hasn't won a major yet, but Oberg I think the knock on Oberg is valid, is that he's having a hard time up here when it comes to closing out events, especially big ones lately. And for him to be able to do it in a major, it's like one of those things where when you're having problems up here, the best thing is to be in a major where you score early, sit back and watch the rest of the field come back to you. But remember, we talked about the trend here. It doesn't happen like that. You better be in the last 3 groups or else you pretty much don't have any chance. So that's about it. If you have any questions regarding one and done, any of these contests, anything like that, let me know. I'm here to answer whatever questions you have. Same thing with Jan Stevenson. I could always forward questions to her I'm no professional golfer, obviously. I don't have all the answers like she does. So if you ever have any questions that are out of my league, I can always pass them on to Jan. I'm sure we'll talk to her at some point later this year. Maybe the U.S. Open. That'd be a really good opportunity to have her back here on the show. Okay, so again, sorry for the interruption. And if you were watching on demand, you should not have a problem, because I'm either going to go in. Probably what I'm going to just do is, instead of going in and cutting it up, because then I'd have to repost it. And what I'll do is I'm just going to put you'll see, I'll have a link in there that says skip over these 5 minutes that I lost the connection. So, what I think it is I live in the mountains, and very tricky situation here, but I was having problems like every day, not every day, but a lot of the time at 11 o'clock in the morning. And so I just got used to just not recording anymore at that time. And then all of a sudden, the last few weeks, we haven't had many problems, especially at 11 a.m. But this is now the second time in the last 4 days that I've had a problem at night. So now it seems that whatever issues, and again, the problem when I have a problem is it takes 1 second. Once I have that one, and that's all it is. It's a quick 2-second dump. And then because I'm off, it takes 5 minutes for it to regenerate me back on. So I'm going to probably have to avoid doing the late stuff now. That's all I'm going to do. And if I continue to see this going on, then I guess it's better than at 11 o'clock. So anyway, I'm just saying that for programming notes. So you'll probably see me doing more as early as I can to not encounter those types of problems. If you want to check us out tomorrow here on Proline TV, you got Jim Feist. Andy Isco is going to be the special guest. And we're going to we got the Preakness to talk about for this week. We've got I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about this tomorrow. The NBA playoffs, a little bit baseball, maybe even a little football. So a lot of things to talk about. 1 o'clock tomorrow, the Jim Feist Show right here on Proline TV. And then the same group of us will be back on Friday on the Playbook ATS Show, same time, 1 o'clock. But we're going to talk all football because the schedule comes out this week. So we're going to talk about football. We're going to go over some future plays, things like that. Speaking of football, if you want to find out about everything going on, even though it's early, but you want some good bets that I think are good bets this early in the season for win totals and futures, then check out the interviews I do over on the Our Football Network. I do that 5 days a week, and I will be, matter of fact, I got some night shows that I'm doing over there. So I got to be tricky, my fingers crossed, there aren't any issues there. But anyway, matter of fact, today I had Gary Furman on talking about the Miami Hurricanes, and we also had Jeff Rizzo to talk about the Detroit Lions. We go over the win totals, all sorts of stuff over like about 30 minutes of an interview. And I've got loads of interviews coming up over the next 4 months until the season begins in college football and the NFL. So if you're into that stuff, check it out, the Our Football Network. Be a link in the description. So you can check that out. And then we'll be on Wednesday for the Preakness preview. So the Preakness preview is Wednesday right here on Proline TV. John Hardoon, my horse